Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mock Draft Guy YouTube channel. Today's episode, we are doing a updated 2023 first round mock. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I am someone who is not easily persuaded by the NFL Combine, but we did see some pretty interesting things over the weekend. I know also I am a couple days behind. I wasn't feeling well. I was under the weather, had a stomach virus, so couldn't really do much recording, but I am here now and I hope you guys enjoy. So this is a little bit of a different first round mock. There are a couple trades. I'm not going to go too crazy with the trades, especially, towards the back end or anything like that. Also, this is a pre-free agency mock draft. So none of this will probably mean anything by this time next week, or maybe this time in 10 days or so. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm just trying to think a little bit outside the box with some of these picks. Also, a lot of players in this mock are going to fall out of the first round for me. I know, kind of shocking, but that's just kind of how the board works. And like I said, this will obviously change by this time next week, or this time 2 weeks from now, once the big free agents are signed and we all know where they're going. It's going to be different. But without further delay, I think we should just get into it. Pick number one, obviously the Chicago Bears. If they have any sense, they won't be picking here. And I've explained this to you guys a couple times in previous videos as well, that I do not really care about the draft compensation. I know that sounds unrealistic, but I mean, sometimes it's just impossible to predict what the trade compensation is. Sometimes I just get the deal done just to get the video going. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on what it is. So this just so happens to get the deal done. So that's what we're going to do. So now that the Indianapolis Colts have the first overall pick, the consensus is probably Bryce Young. And that would be a pretty smart consensus, I would say. Here's the thing. I think CJ Stroud really kind of cemented all that he was talking about in his pre-combine interviews. The dude really showed out. He was a little shaky with his first couple throws. Then he got into a rhythm. He really displayed his accuracy, his athletic ability, and his ability to throw the ball down the field. I know, like I said, you got to take this with a grain of salt. There's no pass rush. There's no pads. They're throwing in tank tops. It's the Zach Wilson effect all over again. But I honestly think that with Bryce Young coming in at 5'10", 204, and then CJ Stroud coming in much bigger height-wise than that. I believe he only came in at 214 or 215. I think the Indianapolis Colts would feel just a little bit safer taking CJ Stroud. Now, yeah, I think honestly either way, you cannot go wrong here with this number one overall pick. I'm just going to think a little bit outside the box and think that CJ Stroud did enough to improve his draft stock to be considered for the number one overall pick. Then, subsequently enough, you have the Houston Texans, who they're probably going to get obviously whoever doesn't go number one overall, whether that be Bryce Young, whether that be CJ Stroud. I think they want it to be Bryce Young, though. I think that this is just a dude can just flat out ball. I mean, despite his stature, the guy is the most pro-ready quarterback prospect in this entire class. I know that's not really saying much, considering the two most pro-ready quarterbacks are probably CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, but he can make an impact right away. I'm super excited to see him play in the NFL, and I think that this would be a right choice for the Houston Texans to make him the new face of their franchise. And then at number 3 overall, I've toyed around with the Arizona Cardinals trading back at pick number 3. Here's the thing as well here. They have their pick of the litter. They basically have the number 1 overall pick because they're not going for a quarterback. So you have your pick of the litter of any defensive prospect you want, even if you move back a couple spots. I don't necessarily think that they want to take that chance. If Will Anderson Jr. is still on the board, I think they're going to stay at number 3, and they are going to take Will Anderson Jr. here. And they could move back. They could take Tyree Wilson, Miles Murphy. They could even go corner, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon, whoever it may be. I think you just got to stay at number 3 and take the best defensive player available. They have so many holes. I really don't even think it matters. But I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to take Will Anderson Jr. at number 3. And then with the Chicago Bears up at number 4, I predict a slight fall for Jalen Carter just because of the allegations and everything that's going on. I can't see him falling outside the top 10 at all, especially with the Las Vegas Raiders picking at number 7. We will get to them in a minute. So I'm going to hold off on Jalen Carter here at number 4, even though it obviously makes the most sense for the Chicago Bears. Tech is a humongous need for them, and Jalen Carter just might be the best player in the entire draft class. I think the allegations just scare a couple teams off just a little bit, enough to the point where they're not going to consider taking him. And Tyree Wilson really solidified himself as at least a top 8 prospect in this upcoming draft class with the combine that he had with his measurables. He looked fantastic. I'm going to go Tyree Wilson instead here at number 4 because edge is a similar issue. I mean, basically the whole defensive line for the Chicago Bears is an issue. So I'm going to go Tyree Wilson at number 4. Then at Seattle here, Jalen Carter is sitting there. They basically have their choice of anyone they want. I'm going to buy into the hype at pick number 5 here. I'm going to say that the Seattle Seahawks, despite giving Geno Smith a 3-year, $105 million extension, I think they're going to draft a quarterback, and I think it's going to be Anthony Richardson here. Richardson obviously just balled out at the combine. He was sensational, broke all kinds of athletic records for quarterbacks. Apparently, there's mutual interest between the Seahawks and Anthony Richardson. Pete Carroll likes him. Anthony Richardson likes Pete Carroll. I think we got something brewing here, and I think that I don't think Seattle trades up to get him, but if he's there at number 5, I do think that they're going to take him. And then when I saw yesterday, I'm recording this on Tuesday, March 7th, when I saw the extension on Monday for Geno Smith, I thought, well, there's no chance that they're going to take Richardson or Levis now. But when I saw that $52 million of that 105 is coming in the first year, I thought that there was a real chance that they could take someone. And, you got Geno Smith, who's coming off of a comeback player of the year, Pro Bowl season, had a sensational year. You could feel comfortable letting Anthony Richardson sit behind him for a year, maybe even a year and a half, 2 years, who knows? But I think they're going to roll the dice. And at pick number 5, they're basically playing with house money because they made the playoffs. Their pick is at number 20. This is Denver's pick right here. I think you go and you take the gamble and you try and get the quarterback with the highest ceiling in the entire class. I'm going Anthony Richardson at number 5. At number 6, here's where I think another trade happens. I know Carolina Panthers fans are probably going to hate this, but I think Carolina starts to panic just a little bit. And the only reason why is I know that there's only one premium quarterback left on the board, but after Detroit, you have, and who knows, Detroit might even be in the market for a quarterback. So you have 3 teams ahead of Carolina that are in the market for a quarterback. Now, you might think also Carolina could take a punt on this year. They could re-sign Sam Darnold. They could just kind of ride the tide, build the rest of their roster, and then go for, Drake May or, Caleb Williams, whoever it may be next year. I don't think that's going to happen. I think with Frank Reich being in his first year, he's also in his 60s, not getting any younger. He wants to get a quarterback, and he wants to develop it right now. And I think that that's Will Levis, and I think he doesn't really have a choice. So I'm going to make a trade here. I think that Carolina panics just a little bit, and I think, rightfully so. I think that one of these 3 teams, I don't think Detroit so much, I think that one of these 3 teams would take Will Levis here. So I'm going to do this. This should be pretty simple here. Probably this pick, that pick will do it. We're going to trade that, and we're going to move up 3 spots here, and we're going to take Will Levis for Carolina. Sorry, Panthers fans. You can hate me all you want in the comments section. We've seen it happen time and time again, so deal with it. And then at number 7, with all options basically, just gone for the Raiders, I think that they just take best player available. And honestly, that's not a terrible thing because Jalen Carter is the best player available, and I think you go and get him. Make no mistake about it, I think that the Raiders are going to be super aggressive in free agency when it comes to getting interior defensive line help. I think Javon Hargrave is a fantastic fit for them. I think they're going to go hard after him. I don't think that stops them from taking Jalen Carter, especially if he's on the board here at number 7. And it just kind of fits a guy, allegedly convicted of a crime or detained for a crime, and the Raiders go out and get him. I don't know what to tell you. It's just facts. So we're going to go with Jalen Carter here at number 7. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons at number 8. I would love to go cornerback here, but I think their defensive line help. Their defensive line just needs too much help. I'm going Myles Murphy here if he's on the board, and he is. So we're taking Myles Murphy. And then how about Detroit winning the first 10 picks of the draft, because they move down, they acquire a 2nd or 3rd round pick, let's say in real life, and they still get one of the top players on their board, and it's got to be Christian Gonzalez for me. I mean, he solidified himself as the number 1 cornerback in the entire draft class with his combine performance. I think it's a no-brainer. If he's sitting here at number 9 and you're Detroit, you run that pick up to Roger Goodell. So we're taking Christian Gonzalez here at number 9. Number 10, subsequently enough, Devin Witherspoon is on the board. You kind of can't go wrong with either player. I know that a lot of Eagles fans are going to say, oh, well, cornerback's not really our number 1 need. And you might be right about that. But if Devin Witherspoon is sitting on the board at number 10 and you have an aging cornerback group, you're taking Devin Witherspoon, whether you like it or not. So you're getting Devin Witherspoon here at number 10. I think it's a beautiful match. At number 11, you got your choice of offensive lineman here if you're the Tennessee Titans. I also considered moving up to get a quarterback here at, with Tennessee, maybe even at number 1 or number 2 with the dumpster fire that's going on there. I think that they're just fully tanking. They're, in a rebuild mode, and they'll probably address the quarterback position next season, which honestly is not a terrible idea. They might just ride with Malik Willis. They might sign a veteran option. I could see Jacoby Brissett playing there. I could just picture it in my head now. I think you go out and you get best offensive lineman available. And for me right now, after the combine performance, is Broderick Jones. I think he really, really solidified himself as the top blindside blocker in this entire class. And, he's got the numbers to back it up. He's got the intangibles. Yeah, he didn't give up a single sack and 400 plus pass blocking snaps last season at Georgia. No brainer for me. We're going Broderick Jones here. And then Houston, I think you take I want to say best defensive player on the board. I don't know if Lucas Van Ness is the best defensive player on the board, but similar to Broderick Jones, he just solidified himself as a top 20 pick. He is a freak of nature, Lucas Van Ness, and this easily solves the edge rushing problems, or at least helps the edge rushing problems that the Houston Texans have right now. So I'm going Lucas Van Ness at pick number 12. Moving on to my New York Jets at number 13. I know Paris Johnson's on the board, Peter Skoronski, who you're really your pick of everyone besides for Broderick Jones. I'm still going to stick with the narrative that they're going defensive back in the first round. And who knows, by the time that you see this, the Jets might not even have a first round pick. So this would just look really silly if that was the case. But I'm going to go with Brian Branch here. I don't know why he was working out so much with the cornerback group. I think that kind of hurt his stock, to be honest with you. Him not just kind of being a true safety, because he would have I think he honestly would have blown projections out of the water if he had his combine as a safety. But he was in the cornerback group. He didn't fare out so well. I think it just solidified one thing for him, that he is a bona fide stud safety at the next level with versatility. Be great at one thing and be good at a couple other things. Don't just be good at a few things. And he is great at playing safety. So the Jets, it's an obvious need. I'm going Brian Branch here at number 13. I was thinking here of a trade down for the New England Patriots, but I just can't tell. I know that they're always prime trade down candidates. Bill Belichick just loves to acquire picks and take, a center from Division IV, Iowa, Farmville State, whatever it may be. I don't know. I would take best offensive lineman available, though, and it's Paris Johnson Jr., because the New England Patriots desperately need some offensive line help. I don't know how it's not listed as a top need here, or one of the top needs. It's kind of far down there, but I am going with Paris Johnson Jr. with this pick. And then I want to take a tight end so bad at pick number 15 with Green Bay. But I tried telling you guys earlier in the year, Nolan Smith is a bona fide stud. And I know his pec injury kind of, derailed those dreams of him being a top 15 pick. Here's the thing. If I'm Roger Goodell, I'm making this pick. I don't care what the Green Bay Packers bring up to me. I'm picking Nolan Smith. It is a match made in heaven. The Green Bay Packers need some help. Not really necessarily on the defensive line, but in the pass rushing department, they have a huge hole. I think Nolan Smith is a freak of nature, and he would be an absolutely sensational addition to this Green Bay Packers defense. I know you got to go out and you got to get Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers some weapons, but this is a weapon here on defense, Nolan Smith. So it's an easy pick for me here at pick number 15. Washington at number 16, a multitude of different ways that they can go. I feel like every single first-round mock I've done, I've had them go in a different direction. I'm going to take them in a different direction again. I'm going to go with offensive line help. I know Joey Porter Jr. is on the board, Deonte Banks. I know. But first and foremost, if you're going to ride with Sam Howell, you need to get him some offensive line help. We know that the game of football is won and lost in the trenches, and if you do not have a good offensive line, your quarterback is not going to perform well. I'm going Peter Skoronski here, only because I think the combine solidified one thing. His arms are too short to play tackle. He is best suited at guard. And honestly, if he's best suited as guard, he automatically shoots up to my number one interior offensive lineman. And if you're getting the number one interior offensive lineman here, as polished as Skoronski is at number 16, I think you go out and you get it. It's not necessarily the sexiest pick, especially with everyone that's left on the board. I'm still going to make it, though. I think Skoronski adds a lot of toughness, a lot of grit to that offensive line, which is much needed. Then we're going to Pittsburgh at number 17, another pick that people might not like. I want to go offensive tackle here. But you know what? To be honest with you, besides for Darnell Wright, I wasn't really super impressed with anyone else. I'm going to hold off on Darnell Wright. I don't think that he's a top 25 pick just right this second. But the whole Jordan Addison thing, I just can't get it out of my head. And it just makes me think that Jordan Addison is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler one way or the other. So I'm going to go with Jordan Addison here. He said, come get him. It seems like a match made in heaven. I mean, you can't argue with the production that Jordan Addison and Kenny Pickett produced together at Pitt. You just can't argue with that. I know that that's not necessarily going to translate, especially since Jordan Addison had like a 32% target share at Pitt, which is insane, especially with, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris catching a ton of balls out of the backfield, Pat Freiermuth. You're not going to get 32% of the targets. There's no way. But Addison could add a much-needed spark to that pretty much dead passing offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers had last year. So I'm going to go with it. Detroit Lions at number 18. I love Bijan Robinson here. Not going to lie to you guys. I love Jahmyr Gibbs here. I'm going to go with Kalijah Kancey. I think that they really need some interior defensive line help. I know Brian Bresee is still on the board here. Bresee doesn't really do it for me, guys, at least not as the first or second defensive lineman taken off the board. I'm going to wait for Bresee. I'm going to take Kalijah Kancey. The guy, I know he's small, but he lit the combine up. He's got electric hands. He's got brute strength for a guy his size. I think he would cause a lot of damage next to Aiden Hutchinson. So I'm going to go with Kalijah Kancey here at pick number 18. Then at pick number 19 here, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there's a couple different ways that they can go. If you're watching this on Tuesday or Wednesday, you know that Donovan Smith was just cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, they could go with an offensive lineman, like I just mentioned, Darnell Wright here. Not going to do it. Joey Porter Jr. is on the board here. I've said it so many times, I sound like a broken record probably. They don't have much money to spend. They have a lot of holes. I think Jamel Dean is as good as gone, and that doesn't leave you too hot in the cornerback department. I think you go out and you get this freak of nature that is Joey Porter Jr. I could see Keely Ringo here as well. 6'2", 210 pounds, tested pretty well at the combine. I wasn't a fan of the way that he was tracking balls in those drills. We'll save that discussion for a different day. But I think Porter Jr. is the pick here at number 19. So I'm going to make it. Moving on to Seattle at pick number 20. Really, probably not the two sexiest picks. That Seattle Seahawks fans are probably going to be mad at me. I've been talking about this for a long time. It kind of fell off a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I'm sticking with it, though. I think John Michael Schmitz is still a first-round pick. And I know Osiris Torrance is still on the board here, but I think John Michael Schmitz fits more of an immediate need at the center position. You're getting easily the best center in the entire draft class here. A lot of people might argue Joe to that center. I still think it's John Michael Schmitz. He'd be a great addition here to the offensive line. You protect Geno that much more. Much needed offensive lineup. And this is a completely revamped Seattle offensive line for the most part. That would be, 3 relatively new offensive linemen in the last 2 years. Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, and then it would be John Michael Schmitz as well. So I'm going to go with John Michael Schmitz here at pick number 20. Moving on to pick number 21, I would love to take a wide receiver right here. Where is he? I love Jalen Hyatt here at 21. I can't really justify him coming off the board just yet. I know that the Chargers need speed at the wide receiver position, but they need defensive line help a little bit more, in my opinion. And I think this is where Brian Bresee comes off the board. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Brian Bresee's game. I think his best season was his freshman year. A lot of things happened since then. He tore his ACL. He tragically lost his sister last year as well. That could have been affecting his game. Still could be affecting him to this point. We don't know that, and there's no way that I would speak on that. There's no way anyone could speak on that other than him. But I think that if he's still not right, I think there's a chance that he gets right and he becomes that player that was the number one overall recruit in the recruiting class a few years ago. I think he becomes that guy that we thought was going to be a top 10 pick this past year. You got to get the tragedy behind you eventually. And I think that if he does, he will be an absolute win for the LA Chargers. So I'm going to go with Ryan Bresee here at number 21. Number 22, Baltimore here. I think I've been pretty critical of Jackson Smith-Njigba throughout this entire draft process. I'm going to give him credit where it's due. He definitely improved his draft stock this past weekend. And I think that this is a perfect fit. By the time that you're seeing this, maybe Baltimore has 3 first-round picks. Maybe they have 4 first-round picks. Who knows what's going on with the Lamar Jackson situation. But I will say this, if they stay at 22, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba would be a fantastic addition to that offense. They desperately need another pass catcher. And in the slot, he'd be tremendous for them. We go Jackson Smith-Njigba here. Then Minnesota at pick number 23. A couple different ways I wanted to go with this pick. I'm going to go with Kelee Ringo here. The reason why I'm going with Kelee, I know a lot of wide receivers still on the board. I know they probably need a number 2 opposite of Justin Jefferson, but I think KJ Osborne did a really, really good job last year. So they might need a slot receiver, if anything. But I think Kelee Ringo is a good pick here because not only is he listed as a cornerback and, he tested fantastically, a lot of people think that he's a safety at the next level as well. So you get that little bit of versatility. Once Harrison Smith retires, maybe, he transitions into a different spot in the secondary. Who knows? I kind of like the versatility. I love the fact that he runs in the 4.3s and he's 6'2", 210 pounds. That's stuff that you just can't teach. You can't teach size. You can't teach speed. So I like the fit here for Minnesota at number 23 with Kelee Ringo. Jacksonville at pick number 24. Again, another spot where I was thinking about taking an offensive lineman, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not really thrilled with the guys that are left on the board right now. I don't think anyone else besides for Darnell Wright is a first-round pick. And I don't think that with the defensive guys left on the board, I don't think Jacksonville goes with an offensive lineman here. I think they go and either re-sign Jawan Taylor, who wasn't as bad as he has been this past year, or they get someone else. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they go after Orlando Brown. That would be a sick signing for them. That would really, really propel them into a different atmosphere there for sure. But I'm going to go back to the cornerback position, and I'm going to take Deonte Banks. He's another one that completely improved his draft stock over this past weekend. Blistering 40. You know that he's a lockdown guy on the outside. I don't think enough people are talking about Deonte Banks as one of the next great boundary corners in the NFL, but I think Jacksonville desperately need an upgrade in the secondary, and I think Deonte Banks is the man. Moving on to the New York Giants. So if you're watching this past Tuesday, March 7th, you already know that Daniel Jones got an insane extension, 4 years, $160 million, and you know that Saquon Barkley was tagged at $10.1 million. The New York Giants front office continues to do wonders here. You might argue $40 million for Daniel Jones, whatever. Apparently, it's the going rate now. That's behind us. Who cares about that? Their 2 most important offensive pieces, they got back. Well, you might argue Andrew Thomas is their most important offensive piece. 2 of their most important offensive pieces are back, at least for next year. At least both of them are back for at least 1 more year. That's great. That's what they needed to do at the beginning of the offseason. They needed to make sure both of those guys were back. Now, you need to get a boundary weapon for Daniel Jones. And I know he didn't run the 40, but we know he's got decent speed. His measurables didn't test out what we wanted to. We were thinking Quentin Johnson was going to be 6'4", 6'5", 215 pounds. He wound up being 6'2" and like a quarter or something, 208 pounds, whatever it may be. He's still a fantastic boundary wide receiver, and I think that this is someone that if he's there at 25, you absolutely have to take if you're the New York Giants, and that's just another massive win for them. Taking Quentin Johnson there. Then Dallas at pick number 26. I think they need a burner, and I think Jalen Hyatt solidified himself as a first-round pick this past weekend as well. I'm going to go Jalen Hyatt. Can you imagine CeeDee Lamb on the underneath or the intermediate and Jalen Hyatt blowing the top off the defense? I think it's something that should excite Dallas Cowboys fans. There's a lot of other ways that you can go. Maybe offensive line, maybe linebacker, who knows? I think wide receiver would be the smartest choice for the Dallas Cowboys here at pick number 26. Then at 27, listen, a lot of needs, I know. Bijan Robinson had a really nice combine. We didn't really think that he wasn't going to. If he's here at 27, I really don't care who else is on the board. I'm taking Bijan Robinson. I mean, there's just no other way I could say it. I think you put Bijan Robinson in the Buffalo Bills offensive system, I think he's going to flourish. And I think that he's finally their answer to a 3-down running back. You get rid of Devin Singletary, you keep James Cook, and Bijan Robinson is your number one guy. I'm taking him here. Then at 28, let me be clear. I know as you're probably watching this, I've had as many as 3 tight ends in the first round in some drafts. I haven't picked a tight end yet. I was a little disappointed with the way that the tight end group displayed themselves this past weekend. And I know I pride myself on a guy that doesn't take, the combine with too much sincerity, I guess is the way that you could say it. One guy did stand out from the tight end group, though, absolutely, and that's Darnell Washington. Can you imagine adding Darnell Washington to this offense in Cincinnati? That's all I'm going to say, because that's the pick that I'm making. An unbelievable addition this would be for them. Number 29 for the New Orleans Saints here. Defensive line help? Please, absolutely. A guy who is defensive line versatile and tested fantastically at the combine. Keion White, I think, is another guy that solidified himself as a first-round pick. We're going Keion White here. Then at number 30, a little bit of a different route. I'm not in love with the edge rushers that are on the board right now. I do love Felix Anudike-Uzomah. You guys know that. He's probably my favorite overall prospect besides for Brian Branch. Going to pass on him for now. I'm going to take some offensive line help. We know how Howie Roseman builds his teams. And with Isaac Seumalo in free agency, Jason Kelce pondering retirement, I know they have Cam Jurgens waiting. I think if both of those guys are gone, Cam Jurgens can slot right in at the center position, and then you go get Osiris Torrance, 6'5", 345 pounds. Hell, he could even play tackle for you if you need him to. That's all I need to hear if I'm Howie Roseman. I'm in. Last pick in the first round here. We all know that there are not 32 picks in this year's first round. I am going with Zay Flowers out of Boston College. I think he had the most consistent of probably all the wide receivers. I know Jordan Addison was a little bit of a disappointment. Jalen Hyatt was good. Jackson Fitton-Najigba was good. Keishon Boutte was just horrendous. I think Zay Flowers ran a 4.42, adding 15 pounds onto his frame. I think that's incredibly impressive, and he's explosive. And this is basically a upgraded version of Mecole Hardman that you're getting for Patrick Mahomes. Sign me up. I think Juju comes back. You have Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well. You still have Travis Kelce. I was considering taking Dalton Kincaid here at pick number 31. I thought that would be a really spicy addition. But I think Zay Flowers just makes too much sense to the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. So I'm going Zay Flowers with the last pick in the first round. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There is my updated 2023 first-round NFL mock draft after the Combine. Like I said, I know I am a little late with it. I apologize. I was feeling under the weather. Not only that, I know I only gave you one round, and you guys are usually accustomed to 2. A little bit of a teaser. I'm going to wait until probably a week or so into free agency. Then I'm going to give you guys a 3-round mock draft. I'm going to give you guys some real insight on those mid-round prospects that you guys love so much. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Please leave a like. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.